I recently put out a poll on Instagram asking what is like your number one question that you have. And this one came through and I really thought we've got to make a podcast episode about this. So thanks so much for joining me today. I am going to be diving in, no frills, no fluff, talking all about how I manage my business so I can travel freely. Now, in order to paint the picture for you and to really add some weight to the restructuring that I did in my business to make this happen, I need to share a story with you. You know, I love a good story. And we're here for a podcast to listen to stories and to get tips and wisdom, and also realize that you're not alone because you've perhaps felt this at one point in your life, career as well. So it is 2019. And a lot of things had happened in my personal life where the pressure of my family was really put on me as far as pulling my own weight financially, so to speak, being the breadwinner of the family. And I hate using that term because that is such a masculine way of thinking. And I've really enjoyed exploring more of my feminine side, but here we are. So out of necessity, I was forced, at least that's what it felt like, to be full on in my business, on my business, to keep it going, to make it happen, etc. And before this, I had help and realized that I had not been in this position since starting my business 3 years prior, where you're like jack of all trades, you do everything and then you rope your spouse in. The only thing is when your spouse is having a midlife crisis, they get roped in because they're not doing anything else, right? I don't know if you can relate. So long story short, here I am doing this business the way that it had been built to support itself with employees and full-time salaried employees, and just realizing that, God, I'm only one person. And my husband is like half a person on a good day. We have a joke. Where's your apron? I feel like that's all I said all of 2019. Where's your apron? So I quickly realized that the structure of the business was not going to work. And it works fine if you want. It had worked fine up until that point because I didn't need to bring so much home. And that's why I want to give you this story. And that's why I want to give you kind of the personal situation that it took for me to figure this out, because I don't think it's something that naturally would come to you unless, we learn out of constraint, right? Creativity out of constraint. So I'm already 3 months into 2019 and I feel like I am suffocating. Just to give you an idea, I am a Sagittarius. My name, Francesca, literally means free one. I love to travel. I have been an expat twice in my life before the age of 30, which means that I lived overseas full time. I've been to 47 countries. To say I love to travel would be an understatement. So prior to March of 2019, I had come back from Australia and New Zealand in January. So this is not a poor me, I can't go anywhere, boo-hoo kind of story. It's just by the time March rolled around, I was ready to go again. Like I needed to get out. My little spidey senses were like, eek, need to evacuate. So every year I take a solo trip. And this year's solo trip was in Hobosh, Mexico, which I absolutely love. If you've never heard of it, please go and Google it, Holbox. And was so desperate to get away, but I felt trapped. I had literally built a business that required me at this time to be present in a city that I'm not necessarily super keen on living in. Up until this point, I had been splitting my time between London and Houston, or Houston and Dallas, basically always on the run. I'm pretty much a fugitive. I realized I have fugitive traits. I love to be nomadic. So I get to Hobosh and I'm a big component of journaling, and I'm sitting there and I'm journaling and I'm like so angry, and I can't put my finger on what it is until finally I realized that I can't go anywhere. I am trapped in, at the time, a house that I had bought for the business and made into a studio until my actual house burned down. This was July of 2018, and we lost everything. And so we moved into said house, which even when we bought it, we were like, we would never live here. And it's not because we're not grateful. I just want you to know that your feelings are there for a reason. We are all made up differently. We all need different types of environments to thrive in, to be inspired by, and this was not it. So here I am living in a house that I'm really not loving. I am running my business out of this house, which I never wanted to do. I am married to someone who currently is having a midlife crisis and has no idea what the heck is going on with his life. And I'm somehow still running this multi-six-figure business by myself. It was very, very lonely, and also felt trapped in a city that I didn't really want to live in because I could never travel or get away because my business relied on me 100%. And so I asked myself, it was really easy for me to come up with all the things that I hated. And I asked myself, well, what would be some things that would just, you would almost laugh at, that it would be so like, couldn't even fathom that could be an opportunity or a possibility. And so I made a list, and it was, I want to travel 6 months out of the year, and I want my skill set to support that. So freelancing overseas, and somehow figuring out how to move my business online where I wouldn't be stuck or reliable on local connections, local relationships. Who do you know? How, having to show up every week and service those accounts. I love it. It's amazing. But when it's the 400th time, you're a little over it. So I just let myself dream. And I think that's so important. I think that's something we don't allow ourselves to do. I think especially in the masculine state, we're like, no, one must do. What are all the things that we need to do in order to be successful? And part of the doing is just simply being and dreaming and thinking and what ifing in a positive note. Like, what if it was maybe, but it was maybe yes? What if it was 51% versus 49%? Like 51% yes, 49% no, versus the other way around. So I made this list of the 6 countries that I wanted to visit in 2020. I know, joke's on me. And came home, I laughed out loud actually when I did it. Like, sure, how the heck am I going to manage my business so I can travel freely like this, where I can like take 6 months off and go travel around the world? Like, how the heck am I going to do that? So I got home and I told my husband, hey, by the way, 2020, I don't really care what you're doing. We've been married 10 years this year. So I don't know if this works for newlyweds, and maybe it doesn't even work for long-term relationships, but it's how I operate. I'm a very honest person. I said, I don't know what you're going to do, but I need to travel. I need to get out of here. This is not how I envision my life. This is not what I stand for. This is not as good as it gets. And it was not easy. He did not take it well. There was definitely a lot of back and forth. But ever since I made that shift in my mind, that in 2020, which was something my human could get behind, because that meant I had 9 months to figure out how to do it, it felt like it could be possible. And so that is when I learned how to shift my kind of 5-day work week, 6-day work week to like a 1-day work week. I was seeing where I had added extra jobs just to bring people on more days so they would stay with me longer. I mean, it's like you come up with all these kind of beliefs like, oh, nobody would work for me just 1 day a week. I must give them minimum 3 days a week. And oh, nobody's just going to come in for an hour. I must come up with like 8 hours of work. Sure, we can take on these extra accounts that don't make sense, but they pay for home chick. So I guess technically I make more profit, whatever the reasons are that we come up with. And so I remember in my home studio, which was, by the way, very beautiful, and huge kudos to my husband because he built it out for me. So I definitely don't anyone to think that he's just some lost soul. He's actually very incredible. So I'm in my home studio, which was such a vibe. I don't really share it much, but it was so beautiful. Black iron glass doors and all white and just very inspiring. But I had outgrown it. And we need to realize when we evolve as humans, because it's totally normal, and be okay with that. And what happens is we shame a lot that, why isn't this good enough? This is what we wanted. Why doesn't it feel good? And I remember sitting there dealing with that. And I have a beautiful glass calendar that I made out of a shower door, actually, and put on there all the months I was going to spend the first 6 months of 2020 in a different country. Good news is I made it 6 weeks, and then the pandemic sent me home, packing. But what this did was I was able to take all my clients, all my work from the 6 to 5 days to 1 day. I was able to figure out what I needed to do with the house. And so we actually sold the house, made a very good profit on it. So remember, trust the timing of your life always. Moved into a beautiful condo, a lock and leave, and then thought, okay, who's going to manage my 1 day a week? And so I started putting into place teams, and I always work in teams of 2. You never know when someone's going to be sick, hungover, car breaks down, kid is sick. They don't show up. They don't feel like coming anymore. So they quit, and then you've got to find someone else. I always work with 2 people. They come in, they know exactly what they're hired for. So which account, so let's just take a hotel account, for example. They know that every day, let's say every Monday for the rest of the year, they're going to be there from 11 to whenever it takes them to finish. So I do daily rates. So I know exactly what I need a budget for. I make sure that it breaks down into a very well compensated hourly rate for them. And anything in addition to that account is going to be their hourly rate. So if I need them to go meet a client, or I need them to make anything extra outside of that scope, they are paid hourly, their mileage is reimbursed, but everyone, they know, I know what is expected every single week. I design the install and I order the install, and then it gets delivered on site, and both of them come, they follow the recipe, and they send me pictures for quality control also, so I know what's going on in case the client ever has any questions. And then they go home. And I mean, it's actually really simple, guys. I think we really overcomplicate things. I think we're scared to give up control. But at the end of the day, like if you're hiring the right people and you're able to give them more and more responsibility, and they follow through and they're delivering exceptionally well, and they're going to take care of your client, then this is how you get more time for yourself. And so in January 2020, I was in Austria and Germany. In February, I was in Kenya and South Africa. Then I was in Dubai, and then I was in Australia. And by the time I left Australia, I realized, you know what? I really don't like freelancing. I've freelanced less than I can count on one hand. I was freelancing for weddings and events. I was freelancing for hotels. I was freelancing for event work, retail work. And my heart wasn't in it. I didn't care. I just wanted to travel. And so came back, obviously COVID, and started, reassessing. I realize my story time's going a lot longer, so hopefully you've got time in this podcast episode. But just to give you a quick little brief insight into 2020, everything went on pause, and therefore I had to let my team go. Now, my team was made up of freelancers that I bring on. Quick one, just to address the technicalities. I bring them on as employees because that's how my insurance covers them. And that's very important to me, because if they are using their car for anything that's related to the business, and they are, unfortunately, they get in some sort of accident, I want to make sure that they're protected. I'm very conscious of, what our budgets are as business owners and what the take home is for florists. And I think it is our responsibility as business owners to protect our people that make it happen. I mean, the reason why we're in business is because of our employees. They play a huge factor in that. So I bring them on as employees, and inside my employee contract, which is actually, you can find it inside the Hotel Florist Profit Method. I have my exact template for contractors, and I have my exact template for employees. Do recommend that you get it looked at by a lawyer that's local to where you are, to make sure all your local laws are are inside this contract and that you're fully protected, but it's so much cheaper to get your contracts just reviewed by a lawyer than actually made from scratch. But I have them sign an employee contract because it definitely outlines, everything you've talked about. Contracts are so important because if things were not to go according to plan, you want to have a very simple document that both of you can refer to, like, okay, what are the next steps moving forward? And I also have in there a non-compete clause, which is extremely important, especially when you're dealing with really niche market segments or design. You want to make sure that you are protecting your business. At the end of the day, that's how you support your family. This is not a hobby. This is not something you want to just be nice because you don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. Like, this is something you built. This is something that your, loved ones depend on. And it's something that you want to make sure is around for a long time. So inside the non-compete, it basically will outline if this contractor or freelancer technically is freelancing for other companies. You're going to want to know what companies those are. You can put them, you can make a note of them that is the exception, or that they have their own business specializing in, let's say, small cash and carry type arrangements, small retail, big colorful arrangements. Maybe you're very into more cream colors, or like for us, for our color palettes, we're really monochromatic. You would never see anything super bright and colorful with 10 different color shades. I wouldn't be worried about someone like that if that's their signature look. But you definitely want to make sure that you are protected by your non-compete. Your clients are protected by your non-compete, that they can't just work with you for 6 months and then say, oh, great, and then pitch themselves as basically the next version of you, to your little black book that somehow they've had access to. So I basically look for contractors or freelancers that are looking for extra consistent income, consistent work. So when we were the Tiffany & Co. Texas State Florist, we had 8 stores in the state of Texas, 7 with another one opening. And there was no way I could even physically drive to all of the stores if I wanted to. And so I looked for at-home, like studio-based florists who were looking to have a consistent day of week to kind of like anchor in their business. Maybe that helped cover their mortgage. Maybe that helped their car payment. Maybe they were able to reinvest that into their business. Maybe they were able to hire a mentor with it, buy extra flowers for their marketing materials, whatever it was just something they could rely on consistently, which is really, really important, especially as new business owners. And then I would just show them the video of the design that I created, because the design was exactly the same for Tiffany's every single week. They would have basically a handbook of where to buy their orchids, what to look for, and that was it. They would walk into the store, they would take a picture of the old arrangement, take a picture of the new arrangement, and take a picture of the orchid and upload it to the Google Drive. So it's about creating structures and processes in your business as well to make sure that it's going to be a seamless transition for you and your employee. And that's something I really tackle in the lifelong tier of the Hotel Florist Profit Method when I get to work one-on-one with florists, is helping them restructure, going from being fully integrated in their business, fully involved in their business, time-sucking life out of their business, to saying, okay, what are some things that we can restructure and compartmentalize to help you bring on help that can be responsible for that. And then you just maybe take a smaller portion of it, but it frees up so much other time to create something much bigger that only you can do. And so just to sum it up, how I manage my business so I can travel freely is I basically hire help, even if it's part-time, even if it's 1 day a week, even if it's 4 hours a day, whatever it is, there is the perfect position for somebody. I know my lead floral designer right now, she's in school, she's a mom, she's a stepmom. She loves being at home to take care of her home and her family. So for her, Mondays is dedicated to one of our hotel clients. And on Thursdays, she checks in on our hotel client after school, and she loves it. It works great for her. She knows exactly what to expect. And then just make sure that you're putting them, you check with a lawyer, but I personally put them as an employee because 1, I can protect them better with my insurance, and 2, they will sign a non-compete clause, which both of you are very clear on what the terms of your agreement are, which are really important when you're bringing anyone in, especially someone who isn't full-time with you. And then coming back to 2020, I started rebuilding everything from scratch. And long story short, spent 7 months out of a year on the road, living in a cargo trailer that my husband and I actually converted into our hotel suite on wheels. If you want to learn a little bit more about that journey, you can go to Instagram and look up Travlux, TRVLUX. And that was really difficult because now I didn't have a lot of connection. And it was the first time that I had handed over design and ordering to a lead floral designer, which was, I remember being in Chicago, and we had a bit of a misunderstanding. And it's also very hard to kind of organize things like this via text. She was still very new. And she basically pointed out that I was still being a control freak, which I totally was. And so oftentimes when we get called out by our people, I would just want to say that, they might not handle it as you think they should handle it. None of that really matters. I mean, unless they're being extremely disrespectful or you feel unsafe, obviously that's a whole different discussion. But our ego gets wounded, right? And so you really have to take a moment, deep breaths, message a fellow flower friend who might understand the position you're in. And remember, it's 50% your fault as much as it's 50% their fault. So that was a huge learning curve for me. So at the moment, I'm actually creating a design book, a brand design guideline book for my lead floral designer, which is also great because, if she were to ever leave and I was to hire somebody that would fill her shoes. So a lead floral designer would have management experience. They would have, I would say minimum like 2 to 4 years floral experience. They've probably had a full-time job in florals, managing floral teams. Maybe they're looking for something smaller now. A good designer, someone who's able to take good direction, to follow directions. I would feel really confident handing them this brand book and saying, this is what we do for this hotel client. Here are the previous examples. So, in the first 3 years of my business, every week I would take photos of every single install. I hired a photographer. This is maybe something else you might find interesting, but I hired a photographer, and I found her through Tuesdays Together, which is an incredible organization. If you're not familiar, it's part of the Rising Tide Society. It's free. They meet in your city once a month on Tuesdays. I want to say it's the first or the last Tuesday. And it's just where a bunch of creative entrepreneurs get together and network. And so finding a photographer who you can tell has a really good eye. Her work is going to be very similar to what you want to portray on your website, on your social, but maybe she's new and so you can afford her because you're also new, then hire her. For me, that was a marketing expense. And every single week she would come in. I would just tell the hotel, our photographer will be here. I even in the very beginning offered the hotel the photos if they wanted to use them in any of their marketing material, and then just realized that was extremely valuable. And it was kind of a lot of work for us. I just stopped sending them one day. But you can always share them if you feel like the hotel is a little bit weird about, you can always say like, I'm happy to share a few images, every month. You could keep it really loose. But she would come in whenever she could. And if I could meet her, I would, and I would get different shots with her. And if I couldn't, then we'd get a Dropbox link. And then at the time, my director of ops would upload them to our Google Drive. And then we had our marketing collateral. And so I can use now all those photos in our brand guide and show our now lead floral designer, like, hey, this is what we've been doing the past 4 years. Each month, this is what you can buy. This is how you can design with it. These are the brand pillars that we'd like to stay within. And then let her have creative freedom on the other things, the colors, the actual flowers that she's going to buy, because your floral designers want to have some say as well, but it's up to you to set the parameters. So they want to play, but you need to set the field for them to play within. But by doing that, I've been able to start 3 new businesses basically, and travel. And, I'm at the time of this recording right now, I am moving to outside the country to split my time half. And if I wanted to keep my, service-based floral design business, I totally could, because it doesn't require me to do the work, because I have set up the systems in place inside my business where I am not needed. And that was something that I learned very early on, that a lot of floral design companies are owned by individuals that are not florists. And so that's really stressful for them when they have an employee leave, that they don't know how to pick up the slack. But for me, being a florist and have run this floral design business now for a long time, and going on past 6 years now, and realizing that even though I might not be there, I know exactly who it is that's the right fit for my team and how to support them where they enjoy working in a small team setting, but really independently. And then I can continue on in my life, and this just becomes a passive source of income for me. So that is how I manage my business so I can travel freely. Remember, everything is possible when I am seeing event florists working themselves to death, wedding florists hating their life, just complaining about how they never see their family. They don't even know how much money they make. They're so tired. They don't feel good. Of course, my heart goes out to you. And I know all those feelings are really real. I've had them. I've been there. I've done that. Totally get it. But then we play this really fine line of victim mode, and we just truly believe deep down inside that it doesn't get to be better than this. And so the one thing that I want you to take away today, in addition to kind of the avenue that I pursued in order to manage my business so I can travel freely, is that you really do get to choose. You are the creator of your life. You are the curator of your life. So if you're finding that you're really hating what you're doing, or you don't feel good, or you don't see your family, that's not what life is about. Life is not meant to die as fast as possible in the most painful way possible with the least amount of people around you. Like, that's just so depressing. Maybe you need to increase your minimum spend. Maybe you need to take on less events. Maybe you need to block off months in your year and just believe that the money is coming. The money is already here. You don't have to worry about or prove that you're worthy to have it. You work hard enough to have it. And so I hope that my stories have been inspiring, but also have given you some thought that when it's uncomfortable, it's not the time to keep doing the uncomfortable. It's time, even if you laugh out loud, to write down what it is that you really would love to do, what would make you really happy, or at least what you think would. And then what do you need to do to get to kind of redirect the boat and evolve into that next chapter? Remember, you're not given these thoughts or feelings by mistake. The universe does not set you up to fail. So it's really important that you're listening to yourself. So if you want to travel freely, then just start thinking about how can you manage your business in order for you to have more time to travel freely. And maybe that simply starts with getting your weekends back. Maybe that starts with working a 3-day work week so you can have 4 days off, and to the point where you're able to let go more and more control. You have more structures in place. You've gone through more learning experiences, and then you can start taking maybe a week every month, and then a full month, and then 7 months if you wanted to. If you ever have any questions, of course, please feel free to send me an email or send me a DM on Instagram at the Hotel Florist. I work directly with florists inside the Hotel Florist Profit Method. So I would love to help you, especially in a one-on-one, if you've really been struggling about how to restructure your business. I was totally there a couple of years ago, and I would love to help you do the same. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.